So after the Rockets got beat by the Warriors, I did my normal, what does this offseason mean for them? But we've now gotten some news that Daryl Morey is willing to trade the whole damn roster besides James Harden, we assume. And they didn't even extend Mike D'Antoni's contract, and I believe that they've fired some people as well. And now I think it's worth talking about these guys again, because I think what this says is the level of urgency that the Rockets are going to have moving forward here in terms of moves and in terms of the leash that D'Antoni has and all that, may be at a level that we haven't seen from a team in maybe I don't know, the last team I could think of is like the Nets when they made the KG Pierce trade. And it's kind of terrifying and exciting all in one, if you ask me. Now, Daryl Morey knows what he's doing more so than those Nets did, so I don't think he's going to do anything that crazy. But at the same time, at first I thought the craziest thing they would do is just maybe trade Clint Capella this offseason because, you know, how valuable is a $15 million center who's just meh against the Warriors, right? And now my thought process goes from that to, well, we could see Chris Paul gone, we could see Eric Gordon gone, we could see Mike D'Antoni fired mid-season or something crazy like that, although that one might be a little too far. There's a lot of things to get to, and I do want to start with Mike D'Antoni. So, yeah, I mean, there's the case for D'Antoni is if they're not facing the Warriors and if they don't miss an obscene amount of threes, then they go to the finals, right? But the case against him is when the Rockets have really been pushed to the brink, he hasn't had other plans in terms of maybe some James Harden off-ball movements or some more creative pick and rolls or just whatever, because I do think there's a human element to we haven't made a three in a while and now we're all starting to get kind of antsy or whatever, right? And yeah, you can look at as many analytics as you want, but we have to remember this is not a math problem. These are real human beings. So for D'Antoni to have the mentality of, well, they'll just go in eventually, maybe that's not always the right idea to have. And that combined with their offense this previous offseason or previous playoffs was basically, James Harden, please be really good and we'll space the floor out for you. I mean, there were other things, definitely, but at the heart of it, it was that. On top of the fact that the guy has never been the most defensive dude out there, the Rockets have always needed to hire other defensive coaches or whatever for that 1 year they were great defensively. Yeah, I can see why Morey would have the mentality of, well, let's just see moving forward, Mike. We're not going to commit to you just yet. You're going to have to up your system or get more creative when it really calls for it, or not have as much of a lackadaisical attitude, because I think that's another thing with Mike D'Antoni is you could argue sometimes he's a little too chill, and sometimes you got to get on your guys a little bit more. Now, of course, D'Antoni knows his players way more than any of us do, and maybe he realizes the right way to motivate them or whatever. And again, they've gone on some deep playoff runs, and they've ran into the one team that they don't want to run into. But again, Daryl Morey seems to just be all in on winning a championship and multiple championships while James Harden is here. And, you know, he's probably got, 3 or 4 more years of this level of Harden. So, yeah, if you want to go that crazy, then I guess these are the type of things you start looking at with D'Antoni. So that's that. As far as potential trades, I mean, I talked about Clint Capella before in that video. I mean, I mentioned it in this one as well. It's the idea of how valuable is Clint Capella really to this team, because assuming you have James Harden, a center who doesn't suck, one other dude or 2 other guys who are at least respectable at creating their own shots, and a decent amount of shooting around all that, you can probably beat everybody in the NBA besides the Warriors, right? So to take a page out of the Warriors book, maybe you just stack up on perimeter talent, versatility, guys who can play multiple positions, defend multiple positions, all that, and you just kind of get centers who are good enough. Kevon Looney, Jordan Bell, Andrew Bogut, guys like that, right? In a perfect world, it seems for the Rockets, they would trade Clint Capella for some sort of a wing. Now, would I want to give up some wing who could shoot and play defense for Clint Capella? I mean, probably not, but there might be 1 or 2 situations out there where it would make sense. And now we get to Chris Paul, this mammoth contract, which I don't know if it's really tradable. I mean, it's 3 years, so it's not as gargantuan as like a John Wall trade or whatever. Which, of course, has no chance of happening. I guess there's a 5% chance Chris Paul could get moved. I mean, I saw some random rumor about the Hornets wanting in on CP3. I mean, do I understand why the Rockets would look to do this? Yes, I do, because the health, the age, and all that stuff. But who's actually going to take Chris Paul? I could picture some world where the T-Wolves would be okay with it, but, I mean, who are you taking back? Andrew Wiggins? I've seen something about Chris Paul being, like, the Lakers' last choice. I mean, I guess that's the kind of thing. It would just have to be some team that's really desperate. I saw some random thing about the Miami Heat or whatever. That's the only real way that I could, like every crazy move we've ever seen, it only takes one team. There's 29 of them. You assume the Warriors wouldn't trade with the Rockets, so there's 28 of them. And it only takes one. So yeah, it's going to be really wild to see just what Daryl Morey does. I mean, James Harden is here until right now 2023. You have to assume he's going to be amazing throughout that entire contract. And I mean, Daryl Morey has proven it. Like, he is not going to just sit by and, oh, we didn't get him this year. Okay, we'll just sign somebody to our mid-level and we'll try to get him again next season. Like, he's really trying to go for this, and we're going to have to see if this is potentially rocking the boat a little too much. I mean, I don't know. If you have James Harden, then at the end of the day, it might be impossible for you to kill the team just based on rumors. But, I mean, we've seen front office disagreements that never go resolved end up affecting the on-court product because, of course, these players are having conversations with the front office dudes and all that. But, again, I am going to trust the infrastructure that the Rockets have placed here. I'm going to trust that James Harden can kind of carry them out of any hole that they end up in, which he certainly did this year. So it's going to be fun to see where they go and where Daryl Morey goes from here. I mean, what was the offer earlier for Jimmy Butler? It was 4 firsts, all probably ending up in the 20s, deep 20s. So I don't know how attractive of an offer that would be for whoever, someone like a Bradley Beal or any other star you want to think of. I guess what would be very interesting is if these guys could actually manage to get cap space, but that would be a pretty wild accomplishment if they managed to actually get under the cap. And I don't know if that's really possible without getting off of Chris Paul and exchanging him for basically 1-year contracts. But, you know, good luck with all that. So it'll be a very interesting offseason, and I do expect this team to at least have some extra wrinkle thrown into it for next season. Daryl Morey's not going to quit.